Yeezer. Shout out to the intro. Welcome to Rich Talks, podcast where we do music commentary, cultural commentary, deep dives, and just interesting topics in general. I'm your host, Unk, aka Ree. Now let's get into it. Alright, y'all. Today, I just wanted to have a bit of a conversation, if you will. So I had a conversation with a special guest. Shout outs to King Sekou for being on this conversation with me today. This is a bit of important conversation, if you will, about black culture, about blackness, what it means to be black, you know. And I don't think I could have had a better guest to discuss this with. So shout outs to you again, King Sekou, and yeah. We did, well, I do apologize in advance. There was some technical difficulties as we were trying to get used to doing this conversation remotely. So there might be some choppiness, some interruptions. But other than that, I think it was a pretty good conversation. And yeah, hope y'all enjoy.
Dennis is telling me, I've given up on my own people. Because all we focus on is old elder Jamaican barber, super educated, not even educated, enlightened, because there's a difference between education and enlightenment. So super enlightened, and he told me straight, giving up on my black people. Why? Because we just like to be like the colonizers. We like to be like the Europeans. We follow their way of life, and we've lost our identity, and we don't know who we are, and we pretend to be like we're somebody when we're nobody. And it's so unfortunate because it plays out in the younger generation, and I can't fault them for that. Then it's like, I'm part of this younger generation. I'm one of the many young leaders who are going to change the narrative of the next 10 generations, because at the end of the day, I like it or not, I'm going to be that others are going to want to inspire because of the things that I have done and I have avoided, right? I'm a young blood that has never been arrested, that has never been suspended, that has never done things that would put me in harm ways of police or law enforcement. I've done things that I'm not proud of, in my younger days, dealt with the wrong people, men who were selling drugs, selling women, abusing women, breaking and entering into cars, into homes, and just a bunch of dumb stuff just to fit in, right?
Part of that comes from the territory of growing hood, right?
Yeah, once you grow up in the hood, it's just one of those things. You either deal with it or you don't, and for me, because
or they're just gonna beat you up every day, like, it's like, that's what it is. Yes and no, because for me, I had to develop a strong shield and a facade very early and very quickly, because I got being physically abused and emotionally abused, and so I started fighting back. And so when I started fighting back, people realized, like, damn, like, this guy's actually freaking crazy. Like, yeah, I'm a very and the thing is, I'm a very chill guy. I'm very peaceful, but when I get triggered, I mean, like, when I go all the way far right, like, it takes me to come back to center, because I don't really get hot like that. So when I get hot, like, I'm boiling for like 5 hours, and I'm hot, like, I'm hot, like, I don't care about nothing, just hot. And so growing up in an environment like that and being able to opportunity, because it was an opportunity to be able to step back
because of sports, right? I was able to take away a lot of my frustration that I went with growing up with her, having difficult growing up with a mother and not being understood, the middle child, seen as the older brother, and having to mature very quickly, not having a real childhood, growing up in the hood and having to do all these different things in life. I was forced to be a man very early, and I was involved in a lot of things that, again, I'm not proud of, but it made me who I am, and I'll never forget my past. I'm grateful for my past because it's taught me a lot of things early in life, and it's taught me to be mentally, psychologically, socially, book smart and street smarts, knowing how to read people very quickly, knowing the room very quickly, know where I'm allowed and what to be allowed, where I'm accepted and where I won't be accepted, and just staying in my lane and not doing things that I know that are not part of me and not part of my identity and not part of my culture. Where Dennis comes into it, because he says that a lot of the black community, especially the young black men, are doing, it's not the lineage, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Why are we in each other? Then when it comes down to the hard, right, things in life, we're always asking the white colonizer, like, oh, help us. Why can't we help ourselves? And that's a real question. That's a real question that needs to be answered. Everyone wants to use the excuse as, parents aren't in the house and this and this, that. But it also comes down to, what are the elders doing, right? What kind of conversations are they having? And how are those conversations being filtered to have of understanding, right? Because they can't just be one way, the youth are this way, and they are understanding. What are you doing to make them understand, right? Are you the next citizens to cross our path, right? Are you just staying there waiting for them to come to you, right? And that's what it comes down to. A lot of elders want to talk, but they don't want to do the work. They expect they want to do the work. Listen, this isn't the 1930s, 2025, right? Respectfully, get off your high horse. Like, a lot of them have no respect or very little respect for the elders. Like, let's be frank here, right? And a lot of our elders grew up in like farm.
But they demand it.
At the end of slavery, right? A lot of them grew up at the end of slavery and the Jim Crow and all these different things, and there's the younger generation to want to listen to them and appease them because you're old, you know more than all that stuff. I get all that. But the nation now are frustrated because their understanding is that you guys went through this and do nothing for us. You by yourself. So why are you mad at me for thinking of myself doing exactly what you did? They're not wrong. Because our elders, what have they done?
See,
very little.
See, one thing to say about
to me, I have. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing with Dennis's worldview, I guess, on the situation is like, whenever we talk about the Europeans or the different types of colonizers and whatnot, how come it's the fact that when we talk about them, they get grouped into one as the Europeans or the colonizers or whatever, but then whenever we start talking about like bringing the black people together, then you start having so much division. It's like, I'm black, but I'm not African, or y'all are just the Africans. Y'all are tethers. Y'all are not like foundational black Americans, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's basically falling into that the trap of they're basically falling into the same trap that they're claiming was done to them by the Europeans, because they're already separating each other before we can even come together. Like, we're supposed to be one group, but we'll let the colonizers be one group, but there's like all kinds of, they're always fighting each other, but they're one group whenever it comes to us. We always consider them one group. So it's like, in a way, it's like it's a detriment to ourselves. Like, we're literally running on treadmills, and then we're looking to our elders for this guidance, and they're telling us that we need to separate more. It's like, how is that gonna work? That's why we end up in these situations, and like we get frustrated with like other people. Like, yo, I can't believe I'm seeing people who look like me doing all this and they're doing all that. But it's like, did you ever reach out a hand to try to stop that? Like, what's going on? Just like, oh nah, like because the white people may, if I go over there, white people will look like I'm part of that. It's like, yo, right. What? Like, at the end of the day, it's just, I don't know. Sorry, you were gonna say something?
To me,
I think your audio was cutting out a little bit. To me,
to clarify, so Dennis, even though Dennis, you better know. To clarify, Dennis is Jamaican. He sees himself as a African, right? Because his dad is actually from Benin. So his dad was moved to Jamaica, did a whole, and Dennis is actually he's progressing to eventually go back to Benin. So he sees himself as an African. So when it comes down to the Black community, I think a lot of it has to come down to healing within our own community, and we have to remove all these labels. And it's going to take a very, very long time, because as someone who's actually African, born and raised, I came to Canada when I was about 11 years old. Spent 5 years in the US, left Africa when I was 5 years old. So I've been in Canada for about, I think, 24.
Me too.
Huh? Sorry, say again?
I came to Canada when I was like 5 years old. 5 years old?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been in Canada for about, I think, maybe 22 to 24 years or so. 5 years in the US. So for me, I've seen, and I've been doing my own research of the dynamics of the Black race or the Black community, both in the US and in Canada. What I've seen is that the Black community in the US is open, but it's still very separated. And it's the same thing with Canada, but the difference in Canada is that it's a lot more close, because we have a lot of similarities when it comes to music, when it comes to art, when it comes to our social gatherings. We tend to support each other to a certain extent, but there's also all these different divisions and all these different tribalisms. And I know those are the things that are separating us, the tribalistic mindset, because I am from the Malinke tribe. I know where I'm from. I know my people. I know my native language, right? But I'm not using that as a staple point to disassociate myself from my Jamaican brothers and sisters. I'm not using that as a staple point to dissociate myself from my Antiguan brothers and sisters, or St. Lucian, or St. Vincent, St. Kitts. Because to me, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Black is Black, melanin is melanin. And my end goal in this life is to learn as much as I can from every single Black soul, because we all have our different stories and we all have something to learn from. Because what I know in my language and in my tribe and in my culture, you may not know. What you know from your culture, from your tribe, from your tradition, I may not know. It may be very similar, it may be very different, right? And so for me to get something from you, I'm adding to my skill set, right? And as the same for you, because if you look at it in basic terms, I'll take it all the way back, right? This is like RuneScape. You know what I mean? You remember RuneScape? Right? So RuneScape, those days, RuneScape days, you know, you start with just nothing. You go chop wood, you make a fire, you do this, you do that, you gain your skill, you do this, and that's the same thing I see life. Life is literally a game. The end goal of life is to gain as many skills as possible, both physical, psychological, and spiritual skills, right? For you to take those skills now and pass it on to the next generation behind you. But what I realized is that within the Black community, we don't like to communicate and we like to scapegoat because, oh, I'm this, I'm from here, I'm this, I'm that. But my end goal question is, how does that benefit? Because you are closing yourself off and you are making yourself unenlightened. You're not uneducated, because education is a form of just reading a book and regurgitating, right? Education is just regurgitating what you already read. Enlightenment, wisdom, is the experience that comes with education, right? Education comes first, but the wisdom comes with the experience when you take the education and put that into the real world. That's the experience. That's the wisdom that comes with it, because that comes with experience, right? There are many people in the Black community that have a lot of education, but they don't have the wisdom, right? They don't have the life experience to say, I have all this education, let me subdue my pride, let me subdue my ego, let me subdue my narcissism, and remove all these invisible labels that the colonizers have put on us, and let me cross on the other aisle, and let me shake hands with my brothers and sisters from the other side of the world, and let's say as simple as, hi, how are you doing? How was your day? How can we connect? How can I learn from you? Because I want to learn from you, right? And within that learning from you, at the same time, I will also provide you freely the education I know. So now there's an exchange of just intellect, of just wisdom and just intellect. And then from there now, once we exchange the intellect, I can utilize what you give me and utilize it to my own benefit to continue, so we both grow, right? And so because we don't have that, we have Black people who take the education from one person and they rise. As they're rising, they see the other brother there. They don't wanna pass down or toss the baton to the next brother that's standing next to you. They rather see, like, you know what, I'm elevating, right? I'm just gonna keep elevating until I get to the top. And when I get to the top, when I'm fully full as a pig, then I will decide if I want to share or not. I'm not guaranteed to share, but if I want to share. And that's a big problem, because at the end of the day, once you start to think like that, you start to think like the colonizers, where all you want to do is just take over, right? But the difference between, I've realized within the Black community, is that the moment we start seeing ourselves as just the Black community without labels, we can and will prosper, and there is nothing and no one that can ever stop us. But because of the labels, I'm Jamaican, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. In the global context, does it matter? Doesn't. I'm not stripping you from where you come from. You're Jamaican, yes, that's great. Okay, we had your 5 seconds of shining great on parade. Great, you're Jamaican. What's next? So what? Okay, so what? What's next? What's next?
So do you think, let me ask a question. Do you think because like when we talk about like certain countries, right? We know that these black people are from these countries. So then when they say where they're from, they won't say they're black. They'll say they're from said country. But then when it comes to black Americans, the origin is different because like they don't actually know the origin of where they came from. So then they'll say, oh, we're American, or we're foundational black American. Like we were never in Africa. Like we were always here. We procreated with the Indians that were already here. Like we were here before the Indians. Like that type of stuff. Like that creates this weird tribalism of sorts, because like they'll kind of harp on the history of things, like, oh, slavery was maybe like 500 years ago now. Like, but if we're really talking about like slavery, like honestly, it's 2025, but to this day, there's like at least 50 million people in the world that are still slaves today, and they're not just black. They're all different colors, and it's not a slavery based on their color. It's based on not having, like being a have-not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they just don't have, so then they're indentured. It's indentured servitude. A lot of people have this indentured servitude, but it's like, again, like you can. Here's my problem with like Americans just trying to do this black supremacy thing where they separate themselves from other black people who claim from other nations, and then they call them tethers and whatnot. Like the issue with that is like, if you're really talking about the ancestry, like if you go back far enough, like you guys should just do an ancestry test and you'll see that you really did come from like these places. Like you came from these nations that you hate so much. Like it's more a self-hate thing than an actual issue, right? Because but they're always the loudest voices, because everyone looks to American culture for like the go-to thing. Like when we're talking black culture, first thing you do is go to American culture, and that's it's black music. Black music is all rap music, R&B music, this and that. But like, no, it's, where do you think it originated from, man? Like the fucking African drums, everything, man. It's interesting because like I kind of want to
go ahead
debate some of these people in this regard that are the FDAs.
So
the FDAs.
So my thing about the foundational black Americans is that I feel for them, because I don't know the average foundational black American experience, and I can say that as someone who came into both America and Canada as an immigrant, and I received my papers through my mom, because my mom had to write the immigration application and all that stuff. So for me, I have a very soft heart for the foundational black Americans. I do, because I cannot and I will not fully understand their everyday experience as a black person, regardless of their man, woman, boy, and girl. I cannot and I will not. I can attempt to and try to, but I won't, because we are not from the same country. They don't speak my language. They don't know my country history. They don't know the history of my lineage, right? The different tribes in my country, the different languages, the different ways of living. So it's hard for me to compare myself or align myself with them, but I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just challenging. I can connect with them on the everyday black experience while living here, right? But outside of the country, I cannot. Outside of the North American context, I should say, continent, I cannot. But because
because you have somewhere that you can go to, they don't. Nation to.
But that's the thing, though. This is the thing, and I've actually done research. The foundational black Americans are actually from America. Actually, I know it's very difficult to understand, and it may be challenging to some people, but there is documentation out there that will quantify this, that Black people were there before the colonizers were there. Because the indigenous, right, not the natives, because they're not native, they're not Indians. The right term is indigenous.
No, I agree.
The rightful indigenous melanated people were there, right? A lot of them were as dark as, or even dark as Sudanese people, right? But that doesn't mean that because you have to understand, there's a difference between Aboriginals and the indigenous. Foundational Black Americans are the Aboriginals.
How's it?
They were there before anybody. Because Africans were the first to travel anywhere. We were the first ones to start traveling anywhere and everywhere. So for me, the term indigenous and Aboriginals, we have to understand both contexts of it, and we have to understand where they come from and how much they've been diluted to make the average commoner feel included, right? We have to go back and give back the rights to the Aboriginals, which are the melanated people, because they were the first ones, because life started in Africa. They were the first ones. So yes, there was slavery happened, but you have to understand, when slavery happened, there were still Black people in America before slavery happened. There was Black people in Europe before slavery happened. You know what I mean? Like, those Black people just didn't disappear. They were there. There were Black people during slavery times that owned slaves, but they don't want to talk about that. There are a lot of things in history people don't want to talk about.
Where they got them from.
Pardon? But this is the thing.
That's where like most of them got them from. Like, how else were they brought over?
But that's what I mean. There were Black people, there were established Black people here in America that bought their own people because they saw them as Africans, because of the mindset at the time, because a lot of it comes down to mindset. Because there were Black people in America who were wealthy, who bought slaves, who didn't see themselves as African. They just saw themselves as these people are bringing over these people to work as slaves, work on our farms. They said this is what it is. So they're Africans, right? And that's what it is.
Capitalism.
It's simple capitalism, right? Once we start to accept that we as not we, because I was not part of it. Once the global Black community starts to understand, and overstand that Black people sold and owned Black people because they did not see themselves as one, because they were trying to be like everybody else, trying to fit in. Until we come to that realization, there will always be an internal fighting. That's why for me, as people are waking up now, I have nothing against the foundational Black Americans. I actually want to learn more about their story. I want to get to know them. I want to sit down and have a conversation with them, right? Yes, they are upset for a lot of reasons.
Me too.
Because they feel like their voices have been subdued. And they are right. Because a lot of laws around the world were created because of the civil rights movement, because of the struggle that the foundational Black Americans went through, because of the struggle that the average slave went through, the average dark skin went through, right? And you have this is why it's very important to study history and her story, right? History is his story. Her story is her story. There are always two sides to a story. We're only hearing the perspective of the man, but it's rare that we hear the perspective of the women, of what happened at that time. We only hear of this will happen. This is what the man said. This is what the man said. This is what the man said. And this even goes back to biblical times, where the woman is always seen as the backdrop. She's in the house. She's with the kids. She's this and this. So whatever she says doesn't matter. And to me, I find that very problematic, right? Because in this world, there's not one way of thinking. There are multiple ways of thinking. Everybody doesn't think the same. We all may have very similar understanding and very similar ways of learning things, but we may not all understand it the same way. So for me, when it comes to the foundational Black Americans, I feel for them. I may not fully feel their pain, but I want to sit down and have a conversation with them and see how I can do my part to assist them the best way I can, to learn from them as someone who's actually from the African continent, and how can we bridge that connection? How can we build that relationship? Because I have nothing against them. I actually want to do my best to align myself with them. I want my end goal, I swear to you, my end goal is the entire continent of Africa come together and align ourselves with the foundation of Black Americans. In the foundation of Black Americans of South America, the foundation of Black Americans in actually America, the foundation of Black Americans in Europe, right? And the foundation of Black Americans in Australia, right? Because there are Black people everywhere in the world, but they're all different factions of foundational Blacks. We just have to look at it in that perspective. There are Black people all over the world. There are Aboriginals all over the world. But it's up to us as the next generation to take the next step to say, yes, I'm from here. I'm from here. How can I, knowing I'm African, I'm Malinke, I know my tribe, I'm from the Malinke tribe, I know my language, I'm Mandinka, I know my culture. I may not know fully, but I know more about who I am more than the foundational Black Americans. When it comes to being connected to the continent. So I know what I have. I know where I come from. I have a lineage of my people and what has happened, and there's a list and a history and this and this. I have all this. They don't have it. And I'm sorry they don't have it. It is not my fault. But what can I do to help them ease their burden on the journey? It's not to say they're African, to accept them for who they are as foundational Black Americans, and how can we take the necessary steps to move forward? Because yes, I'm an African, but you're Black, but I'm Black. Yes, you're foundational Black American, but you're also Black. Let's remove these labels and let's come together and work together and elevate and not downgrade. And I
No, because I agree with you with the foundational Black Americans. I would love to have a conversation with them as well, because like obviously some of them are like descendants of Moors and other tribes of the original Africans. But what I think is the main concern with them is when it came to the United States of America. That's when slavery, like basically North America, that's when slavery turned into a profitable business, because every nation for generations has had slavery. Like look how many times the Romans freaking took over like all of Europe, or Genghis Khan taking over like everybody had slaves. Do you lost the war? You're a slave, essentially, right? Tribes were utterly destroyed and turned into slaves. But chattel slavery is something entirely different, because it changed the game entirely. It removed the humanity from that slave. Like obviously everybody had slaves, right? But they were still considered humans. Like you still knew who they were, but they obviously, like, you work for me, but you still have human rights. Not with chattel slavery. Chattel slavery, they became property. They became 2/3 of a human. Like you're not fully human. You know what I mean? So that's why it just turned into, because like so much anti-blackism just started from all that, because like, this group of people that came from they're slaves, right? But since they happen to look like these people over here, then I'm gonna do whatever I can to steal these people's property and make them look like slaves too, and they'll basically just get the same treatment. Like that's how I saw it in terms of like the chattel slavery, and like I actually want to have like a deep conversation with the FBA too, because again, the main issue comes down to the fact that they don't really know their tribe, and that's a heavy thing. Like people who don't know their tribe, like you're gonna walk around lost, like you're gonna be nomadic. It's hard. It's very, very hard being a nomad in life, right? Like you need to find your tribe, just like in the way that we behave nowadays in 2025. Like you find a group of friends that you're good with. That's your tribe. You have your family. That's your tribe. Like people need to find that, and when you can't find that in anywhere, you try to look for it, or you try to I don't know, you start gaining a jealousy and envy towards the ones that do know their tribe, and it's like, how come you're allowed to know your tribe and not me? Like that's not fair. Like that dead that. And I'm like, what about these guys? These guys, they look like me, but they know their tribe and I don't. Like I'm not part of their tribe. What is that? You know what I mean? Like it's in a way, I feel for them too, because like that's very hard to come to grips with, not knowing something, right? And also in terms of like the history and her story thing that you were mentioning. One thing is, I don't believe that women were really relegated to the back as much as we claim. It's only that they weren't really allowed to be educated, so they weren't really allowed to write things. And when they did write things, it was taken by men, because obviously it wouldn't take you seriously if a woman wrote it. So the man would take it like, yeah, I'll just put my name on it. It's your work, but I'll put my name on it. But 100 years later, like nobody knows the woman that actually wrote that. You know what I mean? Like it's, and also like actually women played a very important role in a lot of history, because like we know the story of Helen of Troy. Like women did cause men to go to war. Like women did control a lot behind the scenes. We just don't acknowledge that. And that's something that we really should acknowledge. Women are not weak. Like women have always been power, man. Like the P. Yes, for the P. Men will go do anything for that P.
Men will go war for that P. You know what I mean? For that P. Oh, they that man.
For the Delilah? Like for Delilah, bro. Like look what happened to her.
No, for that P, for that, for that box.
For that Jezebel,
box for that box. Yeah. You brought up two great points. Sorry, excuse me. And I want to touch on two great points you brought up. Excuse me. So, when it comes down to the foundational Black Americans, again, comparing themselves of individuals having a tribe and stuff like that. Foundational Black Americans know who they are. I think that's where we have to stop taking that power away from them, because every single time that people who put them keep telling them they don't know who they are, you're actually doing more damage, because they know who they are, they know the power that's within them, and they know what they can accomplish and what they have accomplished and what they need to accomplish. And the reason why they are moving the way they are now. Sorry, give me some. My dad's calling me. Give me a sec. Give me a sec.
Okay. Sure. All right, so while he's on the phone, I'm just gonna mention that was an interesting take, because the thing with the foundational Black Americans, like knowing who they are already, I think part of that comes down to like culture, right? Because like if you are a tribe that knows each other, it's like it's passed down. A culture is passed down, right? So do foundational Black Americans still have that original culture of theirs? Because like even when we did mention like foundational Black Americans, like the foundational Black Americans from North America won't have exactly the same culture as those from South America, or the ones from foundational Black Europeans, or the foundational Black Asians. Like, you know what I mean? So in a way, it almost comes down to the same tribalism issue of nobody really knows who, like basically everyone starts creating these tribes, right? In a way. Because like, let's say a foundational Black American might not agree with those takes of a foundational Black European, you know, but at the end of the day, are they still not Black? Like, is the culture, or is the culture too different? You know what I mean? Like that's one of the questions I would always wanted to ask an FBA as well.
Yeah, my uncle called me. He hasn't called me back. When he calls me back, I'll just pause real quickly. Yeah, so for me, foundational Black Americans, they know themselves. They know themselves very well. I think we do a disservice by telling them that they don't know themselves. We actually do a disservice. And they're not asking for our help. They don't need our help, right? Because for years upon years, they've been asking for help. And nobody from the Black race globally has reached out to them. And they've done it on their own now, where they've gotten so far ahead. They're like, listen, we did on our own, respectfully, F all of y'all. And they have all the right to be angry and upset and be prideful, because they were asked for help. Everybody in the global world, Black community, saw what was going on with them. And we didn't do anything. Give me a second. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. I don't know. I guess in a sense, I don't think we. It's not that we don't help them. It's, I don't know. It's more so I feel like a large swath of them prefers to separate themselves from the rest of the Black individual, because I think that's based around the reparations argument. Because like when that whole thing with reparations was going on, like that whole conversation about reparations, like who deserves reparations or not, like I agree that it should only be for FBA, but then that's when you would need to like figure out who everybody's tribe really is before like they can actually be given that reparations, right? If they even do deserve it, which I believe they do. Like not every Black person is supposed to get reparations. I know I want it. You know what I mean?
Hey, I don't deserve it and I don't want it. Because you know why I don't want it? The reason why I don't want it is because if you look at the history where the slave posts were, one of the countries where the slave posts were was in Guinea, in my country, right? And I wasn't the
Ghana.
Guinea was one, Ghana was one, many other places. And when you actually study the history of all these places, it was our people that sold our people that were slaves, like you said, right? And that's where I'm coming to my second point, where
losers of the war, like
losers of the war were sold, and the kings and queens were, you know, they were shipped off as they should. And I'm saying it as someone who comes from a royal bloodline in my country. I cannot say that. I cannot say 100% that my family was part of slavery, and I cannot say 100% that my family wasn't, because I don't know the history of it, right? And
we just don't know.
I just don't know. And even if I do know, what am I supposed to do about it? Right? All I can do.
There's nothing you can do about it. That's why, like, I always found it an issue when they harp on these things and like they attack They attack like Africans for just existing. Like, we have no control over what our ancestors did. Like, we don't know our ancestors sold your ancestors. That's not something I could have done anything about. But like, we can look at something similar in like today's day and age with the wars going on around the world, right? It's like, there's certain things being done in the wars that obviously will not be reported, but that is 100% war crime and 100% slavery is happening in wars to this day, in this modern age.
It is.
But it'll never be reported.
It is. So for me, you brought up two points. So chattel slavery. Slavery was a consistent thing in human nature, human history. I don't like it, and I've always been opposed to slavery or forced labor. That's something I've always been opposed. Like, I'm just someone, I don't force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. Whether it comes to my personal relationship, my professional relationship. Yo, listen, you don't want to work with me? It's all good, partner. Go to the left, my guy. Go to the left, my girl. Like, I'm chilling. Right? So I ain't gonna stress you. The more you stress me, so that's my perspective. And that's all I've always been. And I don't care about your feelings, because listen, I'm living a stress-free life. Period. So when it comes to chattel slavery, it was the worst type of slavery. The reason why, because they took out the moral concept of it. That's the biggest difference. There is no morality.
It's about the humanity from it.
No, slavery
it's about the humanity.
No, but if you enslave someone, you're not even thinking about humanity at that point, right? Slavery itself is inhumane.
Here's the thing. Like,
no, hold on.
So we put a negative connotation on slavery, right? But
so go ahead.
All right. So we put a negative connotation on slavery, right? But it's the same thing with like, certain words just have a negative connotation attached to it. But the thing with slavery was like, that was the way that work was essentially done back in the day. Like, it was actually indentured servitude. It wasn't like slavery as we see it today. It's indentured servitude. You did this for me, so I will work for you until I get rid of this debt. But then that turned from like indentured servitude to these people are property. That is a whole different thing. These people are not people, they are property. And you know what you do with your property? You can do whatever the fuck you want with your property. You know what I mean?
And that's what I mean. They took the moral concept out of it. Because to me, indentured work is pretty much what we're doing now. You go to work, you sign a contract, you work until your contract is done, and then after your contract is done, you get to renew your contract every year for your work, or you relieve your position
or move on.
You either get fired or you resign. That's indentured work. You want to call it indentured slavery? Are you cool? Cool, go ahead. Right. But like I said, the moment it changed was when it became immoral completely, because now you're seeing people, like you said, you're seeing people as property and you're treating them less than animals, less than dogs, using animals to tear them apart and mentally, psychologically, and spiritually breaking them because they were strong-minded people, right? So slavery happened there is no Middle East because there's no Middle West. I don't believe in that. There is no such as the Middle East because there's no Middle West. There's no Middle North. There's no Middle South. There is no middle.
There's no middle. It's
what is the Middle East? What is the Middle East? So if there's a Middle East, where's the Middle?
The middle is actually Africa.
All right. So the Middle East is there is no such as the Middle East. First of all, now let's park that. So the Arabians first invaded North Africa, right? Then
That's it.
then they enslaved North Africans, and then there became slavery, which was forced
The
in
Nubian North
Yes.
Africans.
And so that ended up became indentured work or indentured slavery because they were the losers of the war. That's what happened, right? But there was still a moral concept of it because they were Muslim. There were certain things that they went because of Islam, certain things that they did do, and certain things they did not do. And the thing is, not everybody thought the same. Some people took it too far left. Some people took it too far right. And so when that happened now, as these emperors are traveling to Europe with their indentured slaves and all this stuff, then it went to Europe, then it went to here, then people started realizing, oh, this is what history is about, and blah 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 blah. And then people started exchanging, trading,
Because those are all cultural things.
right? And so, like I said,
Those are literally cultural things. They take over a place, they take it to another place, and then that culture starts forming there, and then they start taking on the little pieces of that culture, and that's how it spreads.
that's how it spreads. And so for me, it changed again, morality. It changed in a moral sense when you started to break people down on a psychological level, on a social level, on a religious level, on a microcosmic, like biological level, by saying one drop of black, the one drop rule, like as simple as that, right? One drop of black in you automatically go, right? So things like that played a huge role in our society. But to me, at the same time, you have to, as an African born and raised, I feel empathy for the average foundational Black American. Even if they may not accept it, I still have to say that I'm sorry for your suffering. I have to. Because it is not me that did it. It may not be my grandfather that did it. It may not be my great grandfather that did it. But at some point, there's a lineage of some part of my family that was part of it, or they decided to just stand back and watch. At the end of the day, they did nothing. So for me, in the next generation, as a younger generation, it's now my responsibility to decide if I'm going to do something or if I'm going to change the narrative, right? So it ultimately comes down to our decision in the next generation. Are we going to change the narrative, and are we going to actually cross the sea and try to understand them, understand them, and overstand them, and really get to know them, and not get to know them in the way that the colonizers want us to connect with them. Get to know them on a humanistic and on a moral level. As a Black person, how can I connect with you? How can I help you? How can I love you? How can you teach me how to love you? Because you don't know how to love me. So teach me. I don't know how to communicate with you. I don't know how to love you. I do not know how to interact with you. So as a foundational Black American, I don't know your history. Please, not even please, because we're not begging here. Nobody's begging for anything. I'm just coming with the confidence that I know of who I am, knowing where I come from. I want to connect with you, and I know it's not going to be an easy road, but understand that I genuinely, wholeheartedly am not coming in to steal from you and run back to Africa. I genuinely want to get to know you and learn from you so you can learn from me, and so we can build. That's my entire premise of this entire thing. So I feel for them. And until we as the global African community get to that mindset that we have to get to a point, we have to let go of our ego, of our pride, of our labels, and all these tribalism, and actually start to understand and take the necessary steps to understand and overstand the foundational Black Americans, the one of the lineage of slavery, and actually take the necessary steps to actually be about them and get to know them and not just talk about it, we will never go anywhere. We'll never get anywhere because we're so prideful. We have to let go of that pride because it hasn't gotten us anywhere, and it will not get us anywhere because, oh, I'm African. What has that done to you? What has that done for you? What has that done for the average Black American?
I mean, telling a prideful person to let go of their pride is like one of the hardest things you can do.
Then they don't deserve. But this is. But then this is what it comes down to, right? Everybody is given an option, right? Because not every foundational Black American thinks the same. If me as a foundational African, right? Because this is a made-up term that I'm making. Because they have the foundational Blacks, we're the foundational Africans, or the foundational Black. You know, I'll just, you know, just this wordplay here, just wordplay. So, as a foundational African, right? I may not appease everybody, and I know I want to appease everybody. I know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset with me because I'm doing what others are not going to do and what others are not doing. I'm walking away from the norm. I'm the outsider. I'm the black sheep, and I accept being the black sheep. I accept it. I will take on that burden, right? For me to take on that burden, I'm telling myself that I'm going to go take the necessary step and tell myself, I want to work with you. Not everybody in your community, not everybody who's foundational Black wants to work with me. Cool. The ones that don't want to work with me, leave them alone. Cool, bro. You don't want to work with me? It's all good, my G. It's all good. I will work with those ones that want to work with me and the ones that want to progress with me. At some point, the tides will turn because the ones who are on the outside will realize they're on the outside, and the ones that we're actually working with, we're all progressing. We're all working collectively. See? Because we're all working collectively now. We all have very similar mindsets, very similar ideologies. We all are coming to a very similar understanding of who we are as Black people. Regardless if you're foundational Black American, if you're foundational African, you're a foundational Caribbean, you're a foundational Aztec, you're foundational this, foundational that. We are all coming together like a global hot pot or crock pot of Blacks, right? The ones that don't want to work with us, leave them over there, right? As ignorant as they are, you can only be ignorant for some time until you realize you're actually on the outside. White people don't want you, right? Asians don't want you, right? Europeans don't want you, right? Black people that want to walk with you, you don't want to work with us. Cool, my G. We gonna be on this side, do what we need to do, still watching you. We'll support you. We'll keep that door open for you. When you're ready to open and come work with us and come step in on this side, we'll keep the door open. But in the meantime, we're on this side, actually progressing, doing our own thing, and supporting each other and loving each other and giving each other love and wisdom and prosperity and doing this thing on this side. It doesn't mean we don't want to rock with you. It don't mean we want nothing to do with you. It don't mean we don't want to F with you. It don't mean we want to support you. At the end of the day, you want to do you? Cool, my G. Do you. We're over here doing our thing, but we'll support you the best way we can. But at the end of the day, if you want us to fully support you, you gotta come on this, because this is where everybody is. We're on the success chain. We're no longer on the depreciation, negativity, and low vibrational and toxic side of reality. We're moving towards the positive elevation side of reality. So you want to be positive and elevate with the Black race? Or do you want to go this way and depreciate, and you'll be left alone and you'll die as an empty skeleton and you'll be forgotten? I want to be remembered. I'm going to be remembered. So what are you going to do to put yourself in a position to be remembered? Whether you're foundational Black, foundational African, foundational Aztec, foundational Caribbean, foundational Black up everywhere. what are you going to do to make sure you are remembered and your lineage is remembered? That's what it comes down to. Period.
Okay, random question. What about a biracial individual? Like, where would they stand in that on that side of the fence, right? Like, you know how you said we're trying to bridge the gap, and those that don't want to be part of it, they can just go over there. What about like a biracial person? Like, where would they really fit into that? Like, do they have to accept? Like, do they only have to accept like their black side for them to like be accepted into it, or like are they allowed to still appreciate whatever side of the whatever side of the DNA that they fall on, essentially? Because like, again, like we said, that there's the people who don't want to mess with it, so then they'll be left out on their own to figure shit out themselves. But then there's also like, what about the biracial ones? They're actually just confused. Like, what is? They're confused, man. I don't know.
Great question. And I say that great question because as someone who has a biracial child, my son, his mom is El Salvadorian, right? His dad is Malinke from Guinea, West Africa. So my son is a very beautiful, handsome, very intelligent biracial child. My son is a black man. He will be seen as a black man.
That's a fact.
He will live with life.
The world will see him as a black man.
Even if the world doesn't see him as a black man, I will see him as a black man. That's all that matters. Period. So for me, when it comes to the biracial children, to me, they are the number one focus of healing that should be within the black community, because they are the most confused, they are the most misguided, they are the most misinterpreted, and they are the most abused. Why? Because they are blamed for their parents. They are blamed for their ancestors. They are blamed for their lineage because they're mixed race. That is unfair to them. It is not their fault.
And they get it from two different sides.
It is not their fault that they are not liked and appreciated by the black race. It's not their fault that they are not appreciated and loved from the white race. They are literally the in-between of both worlds, right? And if you look at it in like spiritual aspects of it, biracial children are the most balanced individuals because they have a yin and the yang, the black and the white. They understand both sides of the world. They understand the world and they see the world in two different ways, two different lenses. They experience the world in two different lenses. They live life in two different lenses. The way they are able to thrive in life, me as a dark-skinned man, I cannot and I will not be able to. The way they're able to live and thrive as a black person, there is ways that they can that I cannot. And they see the world in a different way that I cannot. So for me, biracial children to me are the most powerful, one of the most powerful. Right. And it's the same with like the individuals who are it escaped me here, it's escaping me, it'll come to me, who are African but they're also what's their license as well, what's the term?
The light-skinned Africans?
Yes, what's the term?
The more fair-skinned ones?
Yeah, more fair-skinned. What's the term? Albinos. Thank you, God. Well, my
there it is.
Albino. Yeah, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Thank you, my.
Like,
thank
my
you,
God, it was right on the
Thank you, ancestors.
Yeah, the people who suffer from albinism. Yeah.
albinism is Africa's version of light-skinned people. Think about it.
I mean, they still have like African features, like black albinos. They have literal
about it. Literally
features.
The albinos are the light skins of Africa. They are hunted. They are the reason why I say that, because look, when it comes down to the light skinned people in the world,
depending on the tribe, because I know some tribes used to like revere them, while others would like see them as like monsters, like depending on the tribe, right?
But that's what I mean. That's very problematic.
But if we're talking, because like I think like you said something very powerful, like the biracials are like some of the strongest, right? Yeah. Because like if you actually go back, the majority of people's origins, like majority of humans, like go back their ancestry to a degree, at some point they're mixed up with something else. They're not just one tribe the whole way down. Everyone's mixed up in some way. Like, so we gotta like maybe get rid of the stigma that just because they're from two different nations. Let's say they're nations. They're not even different anything. They're just two different nations. They came together. Like, you know what I mean?
That's it.
Like that's what it is. Like everyone's really mixed. Like, come on, man.
And to me, biracial children, like I said, they're the most powerful because they see the world in two different perspectives. And so for me, they are the most powerful because as someone who has a biracial child, it is my responsibility to let them know that they are accepted in all aspects of life. Reason being I say that is because the Black experience that I have gone through, they have to go through that on even greater context because they are disliked because of their fair skin, their glass skin features, the shape of their nose, whether it's like mine or a little bit firm like the colonizers, right? The texture of their hair, the color of their eyes, all these physical attributes that really don't matter because they're just physical. The thing that matters the most is the spiritual and specifically the internal, right, of the person. Because people like to say, oh, and I used to say this too, and I'm one of those people that I used to say, and I hold myself accountable for it, where I'm like, man, it's a light skin thing. Light skin, these light skin users are like really. It's a light skin thing. What do you mean, man? It's a light skin thing, man. They can't, they don't rock with us dark skins, bro.
We've all been guilty.
It's a light skin thing. What do you mean?
We've all been guilty.
You know what I mean? Like these waste you light skins, bro. You know what I mean? But then I grew up and I had to ask myself, like, those are some of the things that those are self-hatred within me because I'm hating the Black part of me because I don't like the Black part of them. And that comes down to jealousy because, oh, they're fair skinned, they're white passing, they're this and they're good looking. It's not to say that I'm not a handsome, good looking Black man. It's just the fact that I was disregarding my own physical attributes that were great as a beautiful Black child, beautiful Black boy, and automatically taking my hatred or the negativity that was projected onto me, and I took that in like a bowl of soup and I projected that back onto them. And so now they were forced, a lot of the fair-skinned people are now forced to dissociate themselves or move in a particular way because out of fear. And it's the same thing with the albinos, because just because light-skinned people are not being hunted in this time doesn't mean they weren't hunted during the slavery times. That doesn't mean they weren't automatically labeled. Like this whole thing of like house Negro, field Negro, like people don't realize that's where all this comes from. It's the separation of blackness. We have to come to a understanding of this whole separation of black. There's many contexts to it. It's so labeled. It's this and this and this. Yo, it's just like there's so much.
Because in a
So
sense,
much.
there's it's a little bit of classism though. That's why it became the way it became. Because like you mentioned during the slavery times, being light skinned was had privileges to it. There was privileges that were attached to it. Like for example, like the whole house nigga, field nigga thing. You were allowed in the house if you were more light skinned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your master's secret child. You're allowed in the house. They're not allowed in the house. They're too dark for this. Like shit like that. Like even me, like growing up, I remember I came to Canada when I was 5, right? But so that was, I think, senior kindergarten. So a year later, grade 1. Tell me why grade 1 there was a girl. She was my complexion, and she called me black permanent marker in front of the whole class.
Holy.
That like destroyed my entire
God.
thought process on like, yo, what the? And because I was literally the darkest kid in the class from grade 1 to grade 8.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of, it basically turned me into a bully. Like any dude who was like making the dark jokes, I just go and fight them, beat them up. Like that's just what it was. Like that's how I knew how to cope with it at the time.
Yeah.
And little did I know, I found out in grade 8 that same girl that had said that in grade 1, she actually had a crush on me. That was like her way of like, you know, like kids will be kids, but like
Come on,
it really
fam.
does affect
You know what I
us
mean?
in different ways.
It does. And again,
Kids will,
like I said, like right now, it's our responsibility in this generation to change the narrative, because what we're talking about are stuff that happened in the past, right? It's at this moment in time, we have the powers.
so we harp on.
It's not we're harping on it. We just are lazy and we're making inexcusable excuses to justify our actions of doing wrongdoings to our own people, right? To justify that, to make ourselves feel good, right? And that ultimately comes down to pride and ego. Oh, I'm dark skinned. Us dark skins don't do that. What? You know, that's a light skin thing. Only light skins do that. Oh, only white people do that. Oh,
We've all been guilty.
only Latinos do that.
We've all been guilty.
You know what I mean? But that's what I mean. It comes down to taking accountability, which I had to go through, and that goes through self-healing. Taking accountability of your wrongdoings, of what you have said in the past, and the actions you have taken in the past, to make sure that the past doesn't repeat itself, at least the negative part of the past. Right? Take the negative side of it and flip it on its head to make it positive. Right? When it comes to the light-skinned children, again, it's the same thing as the foundational Black Americans. We have to be able to create an opportunity for their voices to be heard. I don't know the average experience of a light-skinned child who has to deal with the nuances of life and what their normal everyday life is like, right? I don't know. I can't tell you. I can read about it. I can watch movies on it. I can watch a documentary on it. But to fully experience it and to actually have a conversation and for someone to tell me their life experience and listen to understand and not listen to respond, it takes a lot of mental strength and psychological and spiritual strength to do that, because you have to be able to take on what they are coming at you with, because it may come off as projected as them attacking you, but don't see it that way. They're just expressing their frustration of what they've had to deal with as a light-skinned child who has both a white mom and a black dad, or a black mom and a white, or a black dad and a Spanish mom, and this. Yo, it's the experience of the suffering that they have gone through. You may not physically see the suffering, right? But they feel it on an energetic level, right? On a psychological level, on a spiritual level. You may not see it in their face, but you will see it in their actions and their behavior and how they just carry their life on an everyday stance, both in the professional context and a personal context. Because it ultimately comes down to their upbringing and their roots. If you don't have a strong root, you cannot blossom a beautiful flower. You can't. Because if you have a poor soil, you can, if you have a poor soil that's not fertile, that's not taken care of, that's not watered, it's like, yo, that seed will die. It will literally kill itself. And that's what's happening.
Although having a strong foundation.
Right. And that's what's happening to a lot of black youth, whether dark skins and light and fair skins. Because I don't even want to use the word light skin. It's fair skin. Or like, I don't even want to use the fair skin. I don't even know, bro. Like, but it
the thing, people gotta get over the stigma. Like, there's a stigma involved in like when it comes to fair skinned and darker skinned individuals. People don't understand that like two dark skinned individuals can have a lighter skinned child, and vice versa. You can have two lighter skinned individuals have a darker skinned child. I've seen it. It's just like a level of melanin that you have, or like you might have a grandmother or great grandmother that was lighter, and that it just passes down in the genes. Like, it's in the DNA. It just is what it is. But people just turn into this colorism. Like, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It really is crazy, because at the end of the day, we do it to ourselves. And for what purpose? What do we gain on, right? What as a dark-skinned black man, what do we gain out of it? Creating all this division, all this separation, because ultimately it comes down to separation. What's the goal? Why are we doing it to ourselves? Why? Are we benefiting? No.
That's the thing. Separation leads to control.
That's it. It really is that simple.
My thing is there is a group. There is groups of individuals that are promoting the separation, because then they can use that to control the ones that they've separated from the main group. This is how, like, it's very Machiavellian in a way, like using fear to separate people, so then they can control how those people think, like controlling someone's thought process through using fear. Like, that's a government tactic, of course. Like, these are crazy tactics that people use all the time, but people need to wake up to that. Like, think about it. Like, you should listen to everyone, but don't believe everything. Like, listen to everything, don't believe all of it. That like, use your own discernment to separate the real from what it isn't real. But I have a question for you, because this conversation getting so long-winded. What do you think is like the next step to like basically start bridging the gap, if you will? Like, what do you think should be like the next first step for us to like start bridging the gap between all the different tribes of black people to actually come together properly?
So, because it's two black men having this conversation, I cannot speak for the women. So me and my brother that I live with, we do a lot of fellowship. So for us, a lot of fellowship is just communicating. He is a light-skinned brother, right? And him and I communicate very frequently. We live together. We live right now, like we're roommates, right? But we have fellowship. And what is fellowship? Right. Just sitting down and having a conversation, right? I see my perspective. He says his perspective. I have my way of life. He has his way of life. We come together. We understand each other, but we don't beat down each other. And we don't say you're wrong, this and this. I take in what he says. I understand, right? I listen to understand his perspective, he listens to understand my perspective. Even if and when I'm wrong, we have to be able to say, I take you're right, bro. I take accountability. We are no longer apologizing. We don't need to apologize, because when it comes to our brothers, we're not apologizing. We are going with the aim and intention to learn. I'm not coming to disrespect you. I'm coming to learn
and grow.
Learn, listen to understand, not listen to respond. That is the biggest thing. And that's one. Second thing, when it comes to the black man, like I said, I cannot speak for the black women, because black women have to have their own conversations separately. When they're ready, then the black man and the black woman really come together.
Have a part two.
Well, black women. Hey, it's all good. I'm open to it. But in the context of the black man, right? We have to be able to come and sit down and listen to respond and have fellowship. That's one. Second thing, we have to be able to understand that the frustration, the pride, the ego, the narcissism, the backbiting, the destruction of the black man with the crab in the barrel mindset, we have to be able to stop that, or at least slow it down to the best way we can.
At least slow it down, yeah.
At least slow it down, because we are not perfect. We're not made to be perfect, but at least we can take the steps to at least move forward. It just takes one step. We're not saying run a sprint. We're saying run a triathlon. Take your time, but eventually we're gonna get there. But at least let's take the step to at least start the race. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm just gonna stand on the sidelines. I'm gonna let everyone else run the race, and we're just gonna watch. Let's take the step. The first step is to have a conversation. It doesn't have to be so serious. It's literally you have a conversation. I want to get to know you. Platform, I want to listen to you. Talk about your... Listen, I'm just here to learn, and I'm quiet. I'm not gonna say anything. Just tell me about yourself. Go ahead. I want to learn something. And it's really that simple. And even if I don't agree with what you're saying, I'm not going to say it at that moment, because this is your time. Enjoy your time. You and I can have a separate conversation at a different thing. I'll write down the points, and you and I can have a different discussion. And I can say, let's have a different discussion. You said your point. Now you said this and this and this. I want to pick your brain on what you said. What do you mean by this? Without interrupting. And I don't want to have that conversation while you're communicating, and while you're receiving the messages telepathically, while you're just, you're receiving messages from the higher being, while it's being plugged into your brain. I don't want to interrupt you, because you're just elevated, you're just like spitting out fact, but you're just like, whoa, I'm intrigued by what you're saying. Like, I'm continue to feed me knowledge and wisdom. Like, I want to intake as much as I can, right? But as you're going in that, I don't want to stop you. I want to intake as much as I can. So as you're going through that, you and I can write down my points and all that, and we can have a separate conversation. And you can tell me what you said, because now because of what you said, you brain dumped, right? At a different conversation, you're not going to brain dump again, because you've already done it once. So now when we're having a separate conversation, you're not brain dumping. You're actually filtering what you're saying. You're actually taking your time. You're not dumping. You're actually wisely giving me a wise response, right? And as black men, we have to be able to get to that point where we're able to accept each other and learn from each other, and have no ego and pride and narcissism, and be able to really learn. The first concept of learning is we have to be able to learn from ourselves before we go outside everyone else to learn from others. Because this is the quote I say, and I perform this a lot. you cannot be a professor or you cannot be a teacher if you don't know how to teach yourself. You can't teach anybody about life if you can't even teach yourself. I can't be a father to my son if I can't be a father to myself. I can't be a brother.
Damn, that was deep.
Hey, it's the reality. I can't be a brother to my brother if I can't be a brother to myself. I can't be a son to my mother if I can't be a son to me. You see what I'm trying to say? Everything starts with me because it comes down to your actions. Your actions is based off someone else's reaction. That's what it is. Without being selfish and narcissistic. You can still put yourself first, but still love other people while still simultaneously loving yourself. But you have to love yourself. That's what it is. Simple.
That's dope, man. That is huge. All right, this has been another excellent conversation, man. Rich Talks podcast. I'd like to thank my guest, King Sekou. King, would you like to leave the audience with like anything else, like some more words of wisdom? You were spitting some crazy bars at the end. God, taking notes.
Honestly, for me, it's one thing I will leave the audience with is in this life, I've learned in this life, honestly, pride and ego will take me nowhere. It won't. It won't. I've gone to a lot of spaces where people like me have not been in, and I've asked myself, why am I the only black man in here? Or why am I the only black person in here? Why am I the only one in this room? Like, bro. And the reason why is because when my mom brought me to Canada, I told my mom, and I still tell this mom till this day, because I just saw my mom, I think it was yesterday, because my mom brought me food when I was at work. Yeah, mom, I take care of my mom, mom takes care of me like that. So my mom was bringing food, but my mom brings me food.
That's dope,
to work. But I pay her. You know what I mean? My mom's my chef.
That's dope.
You know what I mean? It's my aunt, bro. My aunt. Reciprocation, fam.
Sick. That's beautiful.
Reciprocation. I'd rather pay my mom than pay somebody else.
That's beautiful.
My aunt, reciprocation, bro. She cooks for me. I toss her money. You know, I even do some groceries for her and for me, and then I leave food her, and she cooks for me, and she pays me food, and so my mom helps with my meal prep. So actually, two things came to my mind. The one thing that I will give the audience to work on is, yes, it's redundant. People say self-love, but it's beyond that. It's not just about self-love. It's really about being able to put yourself in another person's shoes and willing to understand them in all ranges of life, all aspects of it. And it's okay to have ego, but healthy ego. It's okay to have pride within yourself, but healthy pride. It's okay to be narcissistic a little bit because you're prioritizing yourself. You have to. You cannot love anybody if you don't know how to love yourself. That's one. Second thing, I feel like a lot of people in this life, in this world, have a horrible relationship with themselves because they don't even have a basic level of understanding of what love is like because they don't have a strong relation with their mother, right? You have to have a base relationship with the person you came out of. She gave you life. She gave you milk. She washed your bum. When you were sick, she took care of you. When you needed to be bathed, she took care of you. When you needed a vaccine, she took you to the hospital. She put you in, well, I wasn't put in a car seat, but you know, you were put in a car seat. You were put in baby clothes, Pampers. You know what I mean? You know, like she took that white powder, even though it was toxic as hell. She put that on your bum. Wipe that bum on your bum, you know, all these little things, bro. So for me, for me, my philosophy is, and my dad has told me this, is that if you take care of your mom, God will create a path of gold for you. And that's the philosophy I believe in. So I take care of my mom, so God continues to open the door for me. God continues to create a path of gold for me. So I keep moving forward and I keep receiving positivity and blessings. So for me, the two things that to start is to work on your healthy ego. It's okay. It's okay to have a healthy ego. It's okay to have healthy pride. It's okay to have healthy narcissism, right? It's okay, right? People tell me, oh, you're egotistic. Yes, I am. So what? Okay. Well, they ain't gonna change nothing. Yeah, you're prideful. Yes, I am. Do you not see my skin color? I'm only one skin color. I don't change. I'm not switching like a Pokemon. Like, what do you mean? I'm only one skin color. Like, of course I have pride. Right? What am I supposed to have? Oh, you love yourself too much. Why wouldn't I love myself too much? I'm not an ugly man. And even if I was an ugly man, I'd still love myself, because at the end of the day, I'm a child of God. Remember, in this world, you had to fight millions of selves to be here. So I'm a natural fighter. I had to fight 100 million of you people to be here. So what makes you think I'm not going to stand up for myself? I had to fight millions of cells to be here, fam. Millions to be here. So what makes you think I'm not going to stand up for myself?
Of other sperm.
Come on, dog. Come on, dog. Enough for the nonsense, bro. Come on, dog. You made it out of millions of...
We're all here for a reason,
Top to top, Darjan. Top to top, man. You were here for a particular reason.
Golly. Didn't fight a million other sperm for no reason.
You know what I mean? So like, you think it's gonna tear you down like that? Nah, bro. You gotta real find your hands, bro. You better get these ready for these hands, bro. You know what I mean? Like, no, man. Like, and like, yo, like,
that's
real shit. Like, real shit. Like, building a strong foundation relationship with your mother is very important in this world. And that's why I wear the elephant ring. Elephant's my favorite animal. I have a very strong relationship with the elephant. It's one of the national animals of my country, Guinea. Plus, I see myself like as someone who embodies the energy of an elephant. I'm very calm, but when I'm disturbed, I'm wrecking everything. Everybody catching hands, everybody catching flames, everybody. That's why I stay centered in my energy. I'm tempered. I'm just like, yo, if it really don't got to do with like something I really care about, hey, it is what it is. Shit, it is what it
is.
Right. You know what I mean? So, listen, I'm too blessed to be stressed. That's it. I'm too blessed to be stressed.
Facts, man.
And I'm too black to be whack.
Big facts.
Like, straight up, I'm too blessed to be stressed. I'm too black to be whack. Like, I just want to, like, that's what it is, bro. I'm too black to be whack. I'm too blessed to be stressed. As long as I know that, yo, there's
no. I like that one, man. Holy, that might be the title of the episode. Too black to be whack, yo. God damn.
I'm too black to be whack, bro.
Episode, man.
I'm too black to be whack, bro. You talking about, bro?
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I'll leave you those few days, man. I'll leave you those days, man.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
All right. Once again, y'all, another beautiful episode with King Sekou. And thank you for tuning in. Another episode of Rich Talks Podcast. Salute to the outro. Peace.